And you know what's so funny? I've stopped listening to Scott Galloway because
What?
he's duped in it as well. He's duped, bro.
Sure,
He's in it.
that's huge, dude. When was
I
the
have
breakup?
not listened to him once since I woke up.
Wow,
Not once.
that's huge.
It's huge, but he's he's duped. He can't see it. And so my word for the year is sovereign. And sovereign means to think independently, to be in my own lane, to have no constructs around what I believe in, who I am, what I can do in the world, and how I can add value. Hello, 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 and welcome to this week's Expansive podcast, and our first one for the year of 2025. And in history, we always see this episode to be the busiest and most listened to episode of the year, so we're super excited about it. We hope you have had an excellent rest and a reset and restructuring of the way you think, and the way that you're coming into 2025 is optimistic and excited about the uncertainty and the unknown that lies ahead. As always, I am joined by my ever handsome Erik Kruger co-pilot. And Erik has also had a really good holiday, and we're going to hear a lot more about it. And before we kick off this week's podcast, which is all about your word of the year, which is so really important for us, the theme, let's check in with Erik. Erik, how are you doing, brother?
Hey, dude. It's so good to be back on the pod with you and with all the listeners. We had a great break, I think a much needed break. And today is the 6th of Jan. And I'm just seeing all the posts coming out of everyone being back at work. And I'm seeing the new year, new me energy vibe picking up. I'm seeing people with their vision boards out. And I love this time of the year. It's always so optimistic and hopeful. And people have closed the door on the previous year and they're looking forward to the new year with, I think, ambition and excitement and possibility and opportunity, and thinking that it's now the time to really step into my best life, the best version of me. So personally, I love the energy of this time of the year. I'm super excited for the year ahead, for myself, for you, for the pod, for our listeners. So yeah, I'm in such a good space today, dude. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you so much for sharing that. I can feel you're in a good space and I can hear you're in a good space. I think this year is different to all the other ones in the last 4 years. I think the last 4 years, every time we've come into a new year, there's been some trepidation, oh my God, here we go again. And it's weird. This year just seems like I don't know. Everybody's like sighed a relief of, okay, we've actually dealt with I don't know what else we can deal with. We've had the pandemic. Aliens are landing every day. Not landing. There's more and more spaceships in the sky every day. The government of the Western world is taking a whole new direction. We're starting to see Justin Trudeau is now leaving Canadian prime minister position. We got Trump obviously coming in. We got all the new parties coming into all the governments around the world. And I think this is a really make or break situation for the Western world, because if Elon Musk and these Trump people and all his cabinet can get it right, it gives us a new burst of energy for what the West can do. But if they don't get it right, we realize that the Western world is done and the empire of the Western world is over. But I think all of us at this precipice of this new year, we're excited to see what's going to happen. Like, okay, we realize that the old governmental structures don't work. The old educational systems don't work. The old pharmaceutical systems don't work. So we have to try something new. And who could be better than Elon Musk to be coming in to want to shift those things? And that's really setting a good tone for the year in many ways. Whether you like Elon or not, or Trump or not, that's not the point of the discussion. The point of the discussion is we require disruption at a major level of governmental structures and blueprints. And I think that's really set the tone for me. But through the last sort of few weeks, coming back from Mexico, I've spent a lot of time cleaning digitally. I've deleted all my old talks, everything off my computer. I've redone everything. I've had a total digital detox. And then I took to my clothes. I just gave away
Amazing.
I'm feeling very light, very focused, and very excited for what lies ahead.
So important to do that. You know, you can't just bring that same energy from last year and the same stuff and the same baggage from last year into the new year. So if you haven't done that yet, if you're listening to this, then now is a great time to still do that. It's just to shed a little bit of bad habits and old clothing and like your downloads folder that has just accumulated tons and tons of downloads over 2024.
Get
Just
rid of
go
it.
clean it up. You're not going to use that JPEG or that PDF.
No.
Just go get rid of it. Just lighten the
Yeah.
load a bit.
Exactly. I deleted all the groups I was part of. I went all out. I was like, I don't want to be part of any of these things. And you know, that shirt that's sitting in the back of your cupboard, you think hope you're going to wear sometime in the future, get rid of it. Just go get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. You're not going to be wearing that thing. So yeah, it's been really good. Dubai's been amazing this time of the year. There's so much going on in the city. It is so exciting. It's so, left, right, and center, there's things going on. So really great. And my first talk has been booked into, do you know the world islands that Dubai has? You know, they built the world map. In 2006, they started that project and it kind of like died out. They had some water circulation issues, but now it's back on. And a lot of the countries, or should I say the islands that are countries. So you have England, you got a whole bunch of different ranges of countries you can buy. And I'm going to a country. It's on, I don't know which country it's on, but it's called Zuha. Island Zuha. And so I'm going to go stay there for 2 days. I'm doing a talk there for a client. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to go and stay on an island off Dubai. Not that Dubai wasn't enough, but now there's an island off Dubai. So let's see what that's like.
Listen, I've told you, Dan is also in Dubai at the moment and she's loving it.
That's right.
They had a desert experience last night, which sounds like it was a bit of madness and maybe not what I would expect Dubai to be.
Why?
But no, it just sounded like very hustlers culture, you know, very tourist trappy. And
but that part is definitely tourist trappy to go into the desert.
Is
absolutely.
It? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
In my mind, I expect Dubai to be beyond such things, but I guess every country will have people that create tourist traps.
Look, there's certain places that definitely always have, like the yachts here in the marina. The people that are trying to sell you, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is trying to sell you perfume and a yacht ride. And so, yes, I think there's that sort of, there is that layer to it. It's still an Arab country, which has got a very hustler energy and operating energy. But when you do get the desert excursions, absolutely. The one problem I would think with the desert right now, it's cold, eh? It's really cold at night. It's freezing. I mean, it's like
night.
14,
it got cold.
14, 15 degrees, windy. I mean, you got to wear like proper clothes, which is kind of weird because I never wear my proper clothes in Dubai, but here I am wearing proper clothes. So yeah, it's winter's cold. It hasn't been warm at all. So it's been quite interesting.
Listen, dude, before we get into word of the year, I wanted to quickly start off just with a brief chat about artificial intelligence. And obviously this is something that we'll talk about a lot this year because as we are seeing the trend just continuing, the people were thinking that the production and the development of AI will start slowing down at some point, that we'll reach some sort of a threshold. But we aren't.
Who thought that?
In fact, what we are seeing is that the models they just keep getting busted by better and newer models. And that even ChatGPT-4, that at some point was sort of the pinnacle of the large language models, is now able to, for example, run on people's computers locally. So like you would think that you have this bazooka of a tool and it needs all this cloud energy and power to be running. But now people are running it locally on their machines and getting the same sort of output. So we're just seeing a ton of development in the space, and it feels overwhelming at times. But I was listening to a podcast this morning and it blew my mind. We are now officially competing with AI podcasts. Officially. I never thought when we started this podcast that would happen. And you might go, well, are you really competing? And the answer is yes, because as a podcast or as anyone who creates content online, you are competing against literally everyone else. So we are also competing against Elon Musk and Trump and all these people because attention is finite. And so the podcast I was listening to this morning is a podcast called Discover Daily, and it's by Perplexity. So Perplexity is a search engine, AI-powered search engine. And what they do is they curate information. They have a discovery feed that shows you all the latest stuff, but they use AI to then summarize it. But then they use 11 Labs, which is a tool that synthesizes voice to articulate they turn their
copy
curation
into voice.
into voice. Yeah.
Yes.
And then they publish that, and that happens automatically. And so this morning I went for a golf lesson, and as I was driving back, I was listening to this podcast, and I thought, this sounds like any newscaster that would read the news to you. And it was sharing information about AI. I was listening to an AI talking about AI in 2025. It was such an inception moment.
Oof.
And I thought that this was, when I finished the podcast, my thoughts were, this is really good. You don't need a human to do this for you. This required almost zero effort from them after it had been set up. And I'll listen to it again. And it just made me realize, you don't know where AI is going. I wouldn't have thought that we'd be competing with AI from a podcasting point of view. And yet, here we are.
No words. Let me check with my AI to see what I need to say and comment on this. Let me just quickly check in with ChatGPT. Look, I do think there's a lot to be said for human connection. And I think over digital platforms, it's very difficult to determine whether you're speaking to a human or not. So yes, I do get that. And I think this is going to force us to move into a lot more physical experiences, because that you can't really fool that yet. I hope not. I don't know if it will come. I suppose with virtual reality, you could. But I think what it's going to do is open up the opportunities for things that we can't even imagine yet, as in the potentiality that we have to come up with new skills that we were totally dormant about because they were never necessary. So yes, as scary as this is and as exciting as it is, the potential of what is out there is so large and so unknown that it both excites me and terrifies me at the same time, because you've almost got to stop making goals and just follow your excitement and allow that excitement to lead you towards whatever it is that needs to be led. I mean, you and I were talking offline about you wanting to start a certain type of business. And my question to you was, do you really want to start that business, or do you want to make money? And you're like, a bit of both. I'm like, which means you just want to make money, which means it doesn't really make you excited. And I think our skills and our futures is based on following your highest excitement at every moment of every day with maximum enthusiasm, with zero expectation. And that process and only by following that equation do I feel excited about this. If I was planting goals and intentions, like very specific ones out there, and then AI was coming to eat them right in front of my eyes, I would be very scared. So I think this is also helping us, or forcing us maybe, to think about goals and intentions differently, because we don't know what AI is going to do. We don't know how it's going to change things. We just have no idea. And some of your goals might be totally irrelevant, because of what AI is able to do. So, yeah, I mean, it is crazy. And look, and I'm always a proponent of all the aliens. And now every time you get onto TikTok, there's new aliens. Some in Brazil, then some in San Diego, then some in, I think it was China, and then they're just like popping up everywhere. And there's even people making memes about how uninterested people are about all these spaceships showing up. They're like, oh, another spaceship. Okay, let's keep moving. And you're like, what? So yeah, there's just so much changing and so many shifts happening. And astrology tells us that 2025 is one of the most unique astrological years that we've ever experienced. And so, yes, we have a lot to look forward to.
In what way?
Well, the first thing that look, I'm really not a specialist in it, but one thing I did pick up on is that the last time some house with some Neptune or Aquarius, whatever, I don't know what these things mean, was revolution happened. So the American Revolution and the French Revolution. And so there's an inside out of certain structures that now fall away for new structures to come in. And think about the American government, and think about AI, and think about aliens landing, and think about, these are all breaking apart our current understandings of reality and the potential that we play within it. And as these things start to crack open, we start to realize there's more potential. We have to evolve ourselves to a point where we start to really take advantage of these situations rather than cowering away or being scared of it, or whatever the case may be. So revolution, an inside outing of, think about French Revolution, think about the American Revolution, the power structures that shifted.
All right. Listen, so I think let's get into our word for the year then, and maybe we can kick off with yours as a starting point. What is
Why?
your word of the year for
Why must I
2025?
always go first? Why must I always go first?
I feel like you set the tone so nicely.
Before we go into the word of the year, do you know what I watched last night? And I just wanted to make a comment on what I watched last night because I think that it was really impressive. Do you watch a guy
Did you watch
on
my paddle
TikTok?
game that was uploaded to TikTok?
Of course. I mean,
Is that what you watch?
that's the first thing I watch. I have a Google alert on Erik's paddle game.
And that's why you're so impressed and so amazed.
I'm so impressed.
Yeah? Carry on.
No, I watched an interview with Gstaad, the Gstaad guy. Do you know the Gstaad guy?
Gstaad? No.
Yeah, the Gstaad. So he's this English guy that plays a character that is continuously unimpressed with the world. And he's become huge. He made Laura Piano really famous. Do you know Laura Piano, the clothing brand?
Yeah, the clothing brand, yeah.
So this guy has made Laura Piano. He's 10x Laura Piano just from his character that he's created called the Gstaad guy. And he's created old money character, and then he's created new money character called Colton, Cousin Colton. And Cousin Colton's super wealthy, and so is Gstaad guy, but Gstaad is old school money and Cousin Colton's new money. And what he's done, he's created these two characters that now he's making millions of dollars with brands coming in and sponsoring these two characters and living their life and traveling around the world, sponsored by two very clear characters. So he's not only created one character, he's created two characters with totally different markets.
Yeah.
So smart. Oh my God. It's like the future of marketing and branding. And he was on Jake Paul, and go watch the interview. You know, it really got me to think about what the future of marketing looks like. And he won't say his real name. He doesn't want to be found online as his real name. He doesn't want to tell you how many languages he speaks. He's very intelligent in the way he's building his brand, very humble, very gentleman-like. And he's built these two amazing brands. So anybody listening to this, if you haven't watched Gstaad Guy and Cousin Colton, do yourself a favor, go and watch them and understand the future of marketing and how this guy is almost single-handedly shifting the way we think about marketing and what you can do with it and what one person can do. Unbelievable. And I mean, I watched it for last thing.
So what is your takeaway about the future of marketing?
He created a character that this character now in itself has taken an old school Italian company like Laura Piano and has 10x'd it because of the way he portrays his character. And his characters focus on these super absurd lives of billionaires that, for example, he was saying to me that over COVID, these kids that were at this very expensive Swiss boarding school couldn't go and eat pizza because they weren't allowed out of their boarding school. They had to check themselves into a hotel, and they had to stay for 2 weeks. So that because of COVID rules, but they were so desperate for pizza, they booked 2 weeks in a hotel at $2,500 a night, and just to get pizza. They didn't even go stay there because they just needed the pizza, and they took it. And he was just explaining the absurdity of these people's lives and the fact that he mocks it. And the way he said it was so smart. He said, they said to him, don't people get upset that you mock them? He says, no, when you mock billionaires and you mock up, they laugh at it. They think it's really cute. When you mock down, it's not very smart.
Yeah.
And so just very nuanced, so nuanced the way he's going up, just hyper intelligent and young. So he understands the world. Like he's almost like a Gen Z millennial. I was just so impressed by him. So unshow-offy, like such a calm gentleman, but just radically changing marketing. So go watch the Gstaad guy on Jake Paul. Go watch the interview. Just fascinating what these kids are doing. And when I say kids, late 20s, just brilliant. And I feel so old. When I look at it, I'm like, geez, I am so not in touch here, but so impressed. You know what I mean? So impressed. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a new way of doing memes in some way. Like these characters, because it's quite a thing that we see online. People, playing different characters, like even in one video. Does he do that? Does he, like in one video he'll do both characters?
Yeah, he'll have both characters. Yeah, okay, both characters are there. And Cousin Colton's been sponsored by, I don't know, like 3 or 4 massive brands. And his same video, he himself is now Gstaad guy who's sponsored by other big brands. private jets.
So
Like
smart.
he is in the smartest places around the world, all being paid for by the characters he's
Sure.
created. Talk about modern entrepreneurship. So impressive. Yeah, go watch it. Very, very, very smart. If you're in marketing or if you just want to see what the future of marketing looks like, Jake Paul, Gstaad guy. Okay, word of the year.
Let's go. Tell us.
So I had a real realization last year, and I think that a lot of people did. And I realized that I had been brainwashed by a lot of the media out there. And because of Joe Rogan and listening to a few of the interviews that Joe Rogan had, really switched my brain into what was actually going on with the media machines in America, getting us to think in a specific way. And I was super caught up in the whole media machine world. And when I came out of it, I felt taken advantage of. I felt that I was taken into a rabbit hole and even made myself defend that rabbit hole until I became very objective about what was going on in the world. And one of the things that really got me is I was supporting people that were supporting the war, that were supporting the pharmaceutical industry, that were supporting just a whole range of things that I wasn't supporting. But because of the way they were giving me the information, I was somehow duped into following them. And it's a political process, but it's also just a marketing process and a language and tonality process, all done through propaganda in the most subtle but smart way. And if you think about the way you watch BBC, for example, or you watch CNN or MSNBC or any of these, the Muslims are always terrorists and everybody else is okay. They're not terrorists. It's only those characters that we see as terrorists, and we've been duped into it. And when somebody gets killed, that is not important. It's called collateral damage. And when somebody gets killed that needs to be persecuted because they were killed, whoever killed that person needs to be persecuted, then it's called murder. And these are happening subtly in our world without us even realizing the language that's used to get us to support one side or the other has just been integrated into our lives without us even realizing it. And if we take a step back and realize, who are you defending? Who are you supporting? And why are you doing that? And what's made you support that? And you actually often won't even be able to tell because our whole personalities have been indoctrinated by media. Like, think about it. Like, remember when we were kids and the only thing that we could watch was SABC 1, 2, and 3. And then Mnet, right? But think about the indoctrination, the propaganda machine that our parents were exposed to, because you could not think anything else because there was no other information. And so you were just a robot being told what to think. And so this has been a huge internal conflict for me, because to go from supporting one side for so long, and I think what we've done many times, and I was with a friend last night and he said to me, what did he say? He said, we were talking about him buying something. And he said to me, no, I'm not going to buy that. I'm only going to buy that. Like he was comparing two things he was buying. I said, why can't you have both? He's like, oh yeah, you're right. Why can't I have both? And he's capped himself in the belief system of what he's able to afford. And when I said this to him, it was such an aha moment for him that he didn't even realize he had capped himself. And I think that many of our psyches and many of our personalities have been capped by our environment. I mean, we were talking off air about the amazing people I'm meeting in Dubai and the ultra wealthy people that I'm meeting in Dubai that I find strange to be engaging with, because my comparison measuring stick is with my friends in South Africa. And when I come to Dubai, the measuring stick's not even in the same library. Forget about book and chapter, different states and planets. And so you realize that a lot of your personality is governed by stories you tell yourself, governed by your country, your culture, and media. And to wake up from this, my initial reaction when I woke up from this November, December, or October, November, December, was one of being taken advantage of. And You know, when you go to a restaurant and you're pay too much and the food is crap, you feel violated. And I mean, I'm not even going to go to the point of having sexual harassment or like, you know, being robbed. I mean, those are serious. We're just talking about media and just a light emotion. But for me, I feel violated. I feel taken advantage of. And to have woken up from this, I feel so much clearer in the potential I have and what I want to think and how I want to think it, and not wanting to think like a sheep because of the indoctrination that has been done and the aggressive behavior that some people have when you want to be independent in the way you think. And you know that when I made a post on LinkedIn about the fact that people around the world have two sort of emotions. One, why is the world against us? And two, who's coming to save us? And I said, we need to get over this. We need to get on with it. Nobody's coming to save us. And then I had one lady become so angry with me because I wasn't taking into consideration the victimhood that she perpetuates through her life and her friends. And it was, and that is exactly it, is you become aggressive when people are giving you another opportunity. Rather than engage with it in a adaptable, mature way, you defend your victimhood or you defend your side of the world. And so Sovereign allows me to take more independent thinking, more adaptable thinking, and less ceiling on the way I want to think about what I can achieve in the world.
Yeah, I really like it. I have a question for you. So once you make the commitment to think more independently, where do you end up getting your content from, and the reason I ask is because everyone has an agenda. Like even those who don't have an agenda to not have an agenda. You know what I mean? Like they anti something, and that is part of their agenda and their propaganda. So how do you go about it? Like, what is this going to look like for you, practically speaking?
I've unfollowed every single media channel. There's no media channels that come into my TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The second thing is I'm now only watching interviews that are non-biased in a way that's not bringing one agenda to the other. And the minute I start to feel that it's moving in one direction or another, I'm much more aware of it, and I either switch off or I continue to listen with a pinch of salt. And so there's been a huge awareness shift. And so number one, unfollow every single news channel that I've followed. I don't watch any of them, none of them, as a rule. And then when I do listen to a Joe Rogan, or I do listen to Chris William, what's his name, Modern Wisdom, or there's a much more objective, and even what's his name,
Stephen Bartlett,
Lex Friedman, Bartlett.
Friedman, yeah.
These guys, they're very objective. You know, like they might have some angle here or there, but they seem to be quite open in their approach in how they're thinking about things. I mean, Stephen Bartlett made a post yesterday about the fact that all of our personalities are constructs that are being caught up in. We don't even know what we're doing. It's exactly what I said. Somebody tagged me in his post and said, this is what you say. I'm like, I know, this is what all of us should be thinking, but it only comes from a certain level of awareness. And so if Stephen's saying that, he's got the awareness to realize that it's all stories. CNN and MSNBC are creating stories for you to want to buy into because of the propaganda machine that they've created. And so, yes, it's an unfollowing and awareness that I think will put me and set me up for more sovereign thinking. And also, let's just back one more thing. Deep meditation and connection to yourself. The more time you spend with yourself, the more time you really get to, figure yourself out in many ways and understand what's important to you and what's not important to you. And what stories internally are you using to dupe yourself in many ways, That's also been a huge, huge thing, this last Dr. Joe Dispenza, just the internal dialogue that I became aware of was a massive change for me, A few of my friends here in Dubai have met me and they're like, geez, you're so different. I'm like, honestly, I feel so different. I have no internal arguments with myself.
Sure.
And I thought I dealt with it.
Yeah. And I guess at the end of the day, it's also sort of propaganda that we have against ourselves over time. That we have
Exactly.
these experiences and then we get
Exactly.
stuck in that pattern of thinking, and it just becomes propagated over time. And sovereign is being able to identify those and dissolve them as well.
And also, like, the anti-man masculine machine that the left woke had been creating. It's always just bad being a man. Bad. It's
Mm,
bad. You're
mm,
toxic. That's also propaganda. And that also gets infiltrated into your internal dialogue. And you think to yourself, well, I'm just bad. Like,
yeah, yeah.
and that's zero. Like, no, I'm not doing that anymore.
Mm,
I'm not doing that. Why would
mm.
I do that? I'm not doing that anymore. So, yeah, very, very, very
I like it.
empowering word
Yeah, it's a
and
very
very
strong word.
clear.
Mm.
And also, I
How
turned
does
50
it?
this year.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Um,
it's a big part of also just being 50 and moving into my deep masculine. What does Carl Jung says? Carl Jung says all men are cubs till they're 40. At 40, they
mm,
become young lions. At 50, they become lions. And
mm.
this is my year of lion, sovereign thinking.
One last question is, how does that play into the work that you do this year?
Say that again.
How does sovereign play into the work that you do this year?
Yeah, look, I like I said, I deleted every single one of my talks. I've created 3 new talks and also adding new things and also being a lot more vulnerable and a lot more
Mm,
authentic. And I think that even this podcast is an example of that authenticity that we want to bring back to the pod. We want to talk like I don't want to be shy about what I'm talking about. If I want to talk about mushrooms, I want to talk about ayahuasca, I want to talk about tantra, I want to talk about leadership, I want to talk about AI, I want to talk about strategy, I want to talk about fashion, I want to talk about whatever I want to talk about. And that authenticity allows me to express my sovereign way of thinking. And you and I
mm,
have gone down the rabbit hole of trying to create a podcast for the clients that we want to potentially work with. Rubbish. We
mm.
create the podcast because 2 friends want to have conversations that are deep and meaningful to you and I, which are really helpful to you and I. And it turns out that they're helpful to other people, and great. But when we try and be too strategic about things, you're not being
Yeah.
sovereign and you're not being authentic. And so
Mm,
much more authenticity. And that, I think that's the
yeah.
real key. I
Well
think
said. Well
2025
said. Yeah.
is about deep authenticity.
Mm.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I
muscles.
really
I
like
think it's
it.
muscles.
Yeah, of course.
Don't want to get too deep. Let me go do push-ups. Let me go do push-ups. I'm still a man. I'm still a man.
It's always important to balance out the vulnerability with some
Yeah. Some,
testosterone.
yeah, some high school joke, like teenage joke. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
But that isn't that it?
dissolve the tension from the
Yeah,
vulnerability.
bizarre.
Yes.
But isn't that it? That is the point. Be playful, be deep, be meaningful, be
Yeah.
kind, have boundaries. Like,
Yeah.
be clear. And I don't want to see. And every time I see it, I mock it. Be kind to everybody. No, idiot.
Mm,
Have boundaries and be kind to the people that need it and will kind of like absorb it. Don't be kind to everybody. Then you're a
mm,
people pleaser.
mm.
Anyway, let's move on to yours. I'm excited to hear yours.
Yeah, so I'm mindful that we have about 10 minutes before we have to end the pod. So what I'm going to do is I'll go straight into my word, and then I'll share a little bit about how I arrived at it, maybe on the next pod that we're going to have. So my word for the year, initially I thought, I spent most of December thinking about what would it be. And I was thinking about what are the things that I would like to work on for myself in 2025. And it sort of took me down a certain rabbit hole of acceptance and non-judgment, because it's something I've become very acutely aware of, is that I tend to judge the space that I'm in. And it's not a good energy to bring to it, because we are playing the long game. Things are always changing. Where you are now isn't where you are going to be. And so to judge yourself so harshly in the moment
Oof,
isn't very helpful.
no.
And so I thought that might be the direction that I'm moving into. But then I'll tell you more about that in time. But I did like a small little retreat for myself to close off 2024.
What
And
do you
that
mean? What do you
it
mean
was such
retreat?
a,
What do you mean
well,
retreat, Eric? I
it was
don't quite
actually
understand that.
it was an entire day that I put together for
Okay.
myself. that was all
Okay.
about bringing closure to 2024 and entering into 2025 with an open mind. And so, I loved the day, dude. Like, I think this is going to be a new ritual for me. I started
Yes.
the morning with sitting in front of my whiteboard, looking at like everything that's been on it, because I use my whiteboard as a record of all the talks that I've given, how much I've charged for each talk, my revenue per talk, revenue per quarter, like everything lives on this whiteboard, the goals that I have. And so I spent the morning looking at that, looking at my year, and realizing that I grew my business by 60% this year. It's been a phenomenal
Wow.
2024 for me. Yeah, it was a
Wow.
great 2024.
Wow.
And so did that as a starting point. Then I went out with the pups. We went to Axel's bench at Radloff Park. So I had a great walk with them, came back home, and then in the afternoon decided to do like a small psilocybin journey just at home.
Great.
And
Yeah.
before I did that, I came back into my study and I wiped my whiteboard clean. And it
Ooh.
was like, yeah, it was
Ooh. I didn't know that.
closing
Ooh. Geez, I got
off
goosebumps,
that part of the
dude.
year.
That's huge. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
spend the rest of the night going through a bit of
Mm.
therapy, deep
Mm.
internal therapy.
Deep.
And
Deep, bro.
lots came from that. And
Yes, a
I'll leave
lot.
that for a next pod. But
Yes.
it also gave me my word for the year. And
Mm.
my word for the year for 2025 is magic.
Mm.
And there's a quote that goes with it. And the quote
Mm-hmm.
is, those who don't believe in magic will never find it.
Never find it. Roll doll.
And yeah, I think what I came to realize was that I do believe in magic. I do
Mm.
believe in our ability to create the reality that we have through our mind. I do
Mm.
believe that the words we speak become
Mm.
real, and that the
Mm.
thoughts that we have shape the world around us. And I've always believed in it, but I want to believe in it even more in 2025. And part of that is that I know that as a competitive achiever, as someone who wants to go, and do, that my natural instinct is I'm going to go and create it by the things that I'm doing. Where, like, what I want to lean more into is trusting that the world is going to provide and unfurl in the ways that I believe that it will unfurl. And so it's kind of a settling into, there is magic and I believe in it and it's already finding me. So it's just there's a calm energy that comes with it. With that, I also created two like sort of rules for myself that will bring me back to the essence of it. And the first rule is enjoy the applause. Two parts of that is that, number one, I mean physically enjoy the applause. I don't know about you, but when I deliver a keynote, like often it's thank you, and then as I'm saying thank you, I'm walking off the stage.
No. Stay. Stay.
I don't do that.
Stay.
So
Stay.
part of this year is when I say thank you, I want to stay on stage and I want to
Stay.
appreciate and enjoy the applause. And that further extends into, I think, what a big part of the journey was like for me, which is that I tend to rush from achievement to achievement. But because I do that, I don't internalize and appreciate what has come from that achievement. And so because of that, it doesn't embed into me, it doesn't become part of my structure. And that's the only way that you get to restructure yourself, is that you have to create the space to appreciate what you have achieved. And so standing still on stage is appreciating what I've achieved, and standing still in my life between achievements is appreciating what I'm achieving as I go along.
So powerful.
And then the second is to also be a magician. I mean, it's kind of implicit in the fact that if you believe in magic and you create magic, that you're a magician. But I want to be reminded of it, because when we look around at people who do incredible things, people who bend reality, they are magicians. And I think about this across all different industries and sectors. You can think of Tiger Woods, for example. He's a magician. They do, like, the things he does blows your mind. Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, whoever you want to think of that is operating at a very high level, you look at them often, you think, like I almost don't even know how to imitate that. It seems like magic what they're doing. But what you realize is that in order to get there, you have to blend two things together. One part is imagination. Imagination is like a foundational aspect of magic. And the second part is skill.
Sorry, before you go into skill, the word imagination, I magic notion. Imagination has the word magic in it.
I like it. Yeah.
Imagination. Yeah, it's
imagination. Yeah.
Imagination. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
And so
skill.
I think magicians possess both of these at the same time, because
Yeah.
they can imagine a future that they're going to live in that's going to be incredible and spectacular and where they're going to be the best of the best. But they also put in the effort to have the skill that comes with it. And so I want to be reminded of that. And I want to put in the effort. Not that I haven't put in the effort, but I think there's a more deliberate way, perhaps, in going about it. And so that is my word for the year. Magic.
Love it. I love the construct that you've given yourself, the rules. And, you know, if I can say that over the last 4 years that we've been doing this together, you have calmed down. Do you remember how stressed you used to get? You used to get so stressed. And you've really calmed down. And I think this is even another level of you calming down. And I think the psilocybin has helped you a lot. And I guess a lot of people get that help of just taking the edge off of this constant need for ambition and more. And you're like, just relax, just like calm yourself down. Everything is available to you. You actually will engage with it much better when you're calmer. And the magic will happen more to you when you start to see more possibilities around you. And you can only see more possibilities when you're calm. You can't see them when you're frantic. Or when you know, Dr. Joe always says, he says, like, if you go into a meditation and like a victim that you haven't had the best meditation ever, you say you're going to continuously going in and you're never going to have a mystical experience. You've got to go in there. You've got to be loose. You've got to be relaxed. You've got to be like playful. And then it will happen. Otherwise, if you go in like a victim, it won't. And I think a lot of the times we do victim thinking and behavior without even realizing it. Like that lady that was attacking me on LinkedIn. It's like, you're just being a victim. What's wrong with you? Why? Why are you doing that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you can't see
I love it.
You know,
you can't see it.
That's why you need both. You need the deep inner work that helps you to unravel those patterns. But then you also need, because we have this conversation so often, and we've both said that when you're operating in survival mode, you become tense, and when you become tense, your field of view narrows. You know,
literally,
and your creativity and all narrows. Of that becomes tight. You know, and from that space, it's difficult to create. It's difficult to live a fulfilled life, even. So, I think it's both.
So look,
consciously working on that loosening and opening up. But then also doing the inner work to see the patterns that have been holding that in place.
Yeah. I cannot wait for our next episode where you unpack your ceremony, because you've already unpacked it with me. And it was profound. So the listeners out there, you have no idea what's coming. The next episode is from Shaman Erik, who's going to give us the deepest lessons. Let me tell you, I'm a deep guy. I do a lot of internal work. And when Erik was explaining that to me, I had goosebumps going right through my whole body. So thank you so much for joining us for this week's pod. And Erik, thank you for sharing so openly and with such an open heart. I love this new version of you. And like, you know, you're going to be huge this year, and make sure you don't overtake me, because then there'll be trouble.
Thank you.
But I wish you well, and I look forward to our next pod already. And for all our listeners, hope you have your word of the year. Hope you're breaking it more into a habit and a behavior. Hope you've given it some deep thought, and we look forward to sharing the rest of the year with you. Until then, ciao.